Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Kelsi. I'm the creator of Bite-Sized Ancient History and I'm currently a student at the University of Cambridge. Today I thought I'd give some tips and tricks on how to revise for more fact-based exams rather than essay-written exams. So if this is the kind of content that you're interested in, please like and subscribe to show your support. So what do I mean by fact-based exams? These are your kind of maths, science, or in my case, language-based exams where you're not having to write full-on essays, but you are having to answer perhaps multiple choice questions or smaller marked questions, like up to 5 marks. Since obviously now it is the Easter holidays, I thought that it would be really important and useful to get some tips and tricks on how to revise during this period so that when it comes to the final term and exam season, you really feel like you're ready to go and in a good position to start. So my first tip would be that at this stage you've probably gone through most of the content, or at least 95% of the content that is going to be in the exam. So what I would suggest that you do is try and collate this all into one Word document or one page on Notion. And you want to just combine all of the notes that you've taken, all of the textbooks and other resources that you have on the content so that you know that you have every possible piece of information that you could need for the exam all in one place. This is then also quite useful because obviously people's exams this year are going to be looking very different. Some people may still have in-person exams where it's entirely memory based, whilst others may have open book at home exams. And if you do have all this information in one place in the document, it is easy then to go on the word search tool and find the section that may be useful for you. So you may be thinking that this so far doesn't really seem like you're learning a lot of the content, and that would be correct. So what I would suggest, as this isn't really tiring work that is involving a lot of brain work, I would just do this work in the evening when you're sat in front of Netflix or the TV and just almost passively get it all typed up and done so that you're not wasting precious time during the day when you are feeling more productive. So next I would say that after you've compiled it all together, what you want to do is start doing nice handwritten notes. And I'm not saying at this point that you have to again repeat it word for word, but instead you want to be summarising these topics and just pulling out the key ideas that you need to look at. And whilst you're doing this, at the end of each topic, I would suggest that you get a whiteboard out and you start testing yourself as you go along. I honestly rely solely on a whiteboard to do my revision because not only are you saving paper, but it is forcing you actively to write down and remember these key points. And I think having it physically written down to memorise it is a lot easier than just relying on testing yourself in your head. And what I do is you finish one topic, you want to test yourself, and once you get everything right, I would say then move on to the next topic. Get everything right there, but then go back to the previous topic because it's going back and forcing yourself to remember something from perhaps half an hour ago that starts to move that memory into your long-term memory rather than just short time remembering it, in which case you're going to sit down in the exam and there's no way that you're going to be able to recall the information. Once you've done this and you feel like you have a really solid grounding with each of the topics involved in this module or in this exam, you are going to want to write out physical revision cards. Again, this will just be simple bullet points, really breaking down the topics into bite-sized chunks. Again, I don't want you necessarily to copy down what you'd written in your written up notes, in your neat notes, because that's going to be using your brain very passively rather than actively making it use and remember this information, but rather you're going to condense it further. And then what I would do is test yourself on these cards. You can be out and about at the park, on the bus, or just at your desk at home, and you're going to be putting it into separate piles of, yeah, I get that right, or oh, I keep getting that bit wrong. And then only once you've got the stuff that you're getting wrong write a few times, can you then move it into your secure pile with, yeah, I think I've got my head around that, I've remembered all of the key points there. So then, as a final precaution, I often like using Quizlet or Memorize to get online versions of revision cards to save time and not waste energy trying to write out the information that I'm already very secure on. What I'll really do is just type up the revision cards that I think I keep getting that wrong, or I don't feel comfortable with that yet. And it's just another safety net almost of catching the information that you perhaps keep overlooking or forgetting. So once you feel like you have a really solid grounding with all of these topics, I would suggest that that's when you start meeting up with friends to go through this, whether it's in person physically or just online. And what you want to do is just simply test each other. And what's really useful is if you get your friend to test you with the revision cards or the questions that they have. And what's interesting here is that everybody's going to be revising and looking at stuff in a slightly different way. So when they ask you their questions, it's going to force you to confront the topic from a slightly different angle. And by looking at the information from all these different angles, what it does is really enforce it and secure it within your brain by creating all these different pathways to get to that information. And ultimately, when you are sat in the actual exam, the way that the examiners are going to be challenging you on this information is from very different and unique angles. So if you haven't started to train your brain to look at the information and use it in that way, that's ultimately what's going to be tripping you up in the exam. Even if you've learned every possible amount of information there is to learn, if you haven't started to look at it in that way, you're going to start to trip up. Also, if perhaps you don't have close friends on your course, you can also meet up with other friends or family members, and if they're willing, or even they don't really need to listen, what you're going to want to do is just vocalize how you yourself would be teaching this course. How would you educate somebody else in this topic? How would you make them learn that information? And often when you force yourself to teach the topic in this way is when you start to realize, oh, I've got a very thin knowledge on that topic area. I don't know actually how I would properly explain that. And it really starts to reveal to you the bits that perhaps you need to focus a bit more on, and you only have a very shallow understanding of the topic. And then you could look at that point and then go back and start to think, oh, I'm going to add a bit more depth to my understanding here. I'm going to start challenging it this way and looking at it this way. Finally, whilst I'm going through this process, I often find it useful to just have a long list or like a breakdown of all the different topics and key pieces of information that you're going to need for the exam. And then what I do is I'll put this on an Excel spreadsheet, and then I'll use a kind of traffic light system of red meaning I really need to work on this topic, I have no idea what's happening, orange, I've made a start, and then green being I think I'm good, we're good to go for the exam on that topic. And then what you want to do is update it every couple of days, every week. And not only is this a good way of tracking your progress and scheduling your revision, it also acts as a really good reassurance in the couple of days before the exam. Because I know often, especially myself, in the couple of days leading up to the exam, I will start to panic and doubt how much I have done, how much I know. Whereas if you have this list, you can look through and think, no, I've ticked it off green, I do understand that, I understand this. And it just really helps you calm down and approach the exam in a bit more of a level-headed way. So that is everything that I have for you today. If you think I've left anything out or you have any tips and tricks, please feel free to comment them down below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, bye.